Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett's Take. It's that time where now that football season is over, I want to go over my NFL mock draft. But before I do that, I want to discuss the coaching hires that happened this past cycle since I haven't had a chance to do that yet. New England promoting their linebackers coach Jared Mayo was kind of the one that was being talked about the most ended up happening. So does it shock me? Again, I don't feel like that's the best hire. And you're gonna hear this for a lot because again, I feel like you need to go offensive coaching for the most part. Because in order for a defense coach to work, they either have to have a great quarterback or a great offense coordinator. Because if they have one, or because if they don't have either, then they're not that good. Um, but uh, I feel like that was kind of a again, proximity to greatness doesn't mean greatness type of thing. So we'll see if it works out. Doubt it will. Atlanta hiring Raheem Morris. I thought that was interesting because they interviewed Bill Belichick a couple times, and a lot of people expected Belichick to get hired by Atlanta, but instead they went Raheem Morris. He actually used to be the interim coach with them a couple years ago, back when he used to be the DC in Atlanta. So it's definitely a familiarity hire for sure. And Raheem Morris is one of the is a really good defense coordinator. And a lot of people just love him. He's a great like culture guy and all that. So to me, I feel like if I would grade it, maybe it's like a B minus, B plus, whatever. It kind of really depends on who he's going to get as his quarterbacks. Because if he doesn't have a quarterback, then it doesn't matter how good of a culture he builds or what he does. Next is Carolina hiring Dan Canales, the offense coordinator for Tampa Bay. I thought that was a sneaky good hire because with Carolina, especially with the way the owner is being so, too quick and rash to change things and being involved in all that. I just feel like you weren't gonna get like the top candidates. Like the top candidates wouldn't want to choose Carolina. So you had to deal. You had to get. You had to make the best of what you had. And I feel like Dan Canales is a great guy. He helped to resurrect Baker Mayfield's career this past year and led a good offense to Tampa Bay. So I feel like he can do the same thing in Carolina, assuming he gets more skilled people and upgrade and beeps up the offensive line because that's what needs to happen in order for anything else to happen. Um, Las Vegas promoting Antonio Pierce. I mean, you can say it's the right move because there are arguments they should have promoted the last interim coach they had um, since the Josh McDaniels thing didn't work out. But um, again, it all depends on who the Raiders quarterback is because if they don't have a good quarterback, then Antonio Pierce can only do so much, as evidenced this past year where he had them respectable, but bad quarterback play kept them from being on the playoffs. Tennessee, they hired Brian Callahan, the Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator. That one's kind of an interesting hire because it's an offensive hire, which I like. But it's an interesting hire as far as okay, the offensive success that's happened with the Bengals, whether it's Joe Burrow, even to a degree Jake Browning, that quarterback. It's like, was that because of Zach Taylor, who's the offensive head coach there, or was that really because of Brian Kelly? Like, who's calling more of the shots there? So I'm interested to see what he can do for Will Levis, and if he can get more weapons around him, because they're going to need a lot more weapons. They're basically going to rebuild at this point. Maybe this was a sneaky home run hire. Maybe he ends up flopping because it was like Taylor that was the one calling the shots all along. But we'll see on that one. Next is Seattle. They hired Mike McDonald, one of the best defensive coordinators out there from the Ravens. I thought if they were going to go defensive coach, I would have gone Mike Vrabel since he's a veteran here. Like he already has the head coach experience, already done it. I mean, Mike McDonald's a great defensive coordinator, but we'll have to see if he's actually going to be a good head coach or not. And he's also very young, 236. So I can understand them going young since Steve Carroll was way old, but still, I'm kind of a wait and see there. Um, and Washington hiring Dan Quinn. Um, with Washington, since they were the last ones to hire in the coaching cycle, they were kind of limited on their options at this point because they apparently did not want to go the Bill Belichick route, or the Mike Vrabel route, which is what I would have gone with. So since they clearly want a head coach experience, they were going to do the Ben Johnson offense coordinator for the Lions team, but since that whole thing fizzled out, They had to scramble last minute, so they got Dan Quinn. Which, I mean, he hired Kingsbury as offensive coordinator. So if Kingsbury could be a good offensive coordinator, that's a good hire because Dan Quinn has at least shown in the past, hey, when I have a good offensive coordinator, I can produce. It's just when he doesn't have a good offensive coordinator is where things get sour. And also, it'll be interesting to see who's the quarterback. Is it going to be? Are they going to be able to get Caleb Williams perhaps, or is they going to do Drake May or even Jane Daniels? We'll kind of see on that. And then last but not least, the LA Chargers hiring Jim Harbaugh, best coaching hire of the cycle for sure. He'll make the Chargers better, like he did with the 49ers and then all the college places he's been at. Um, Now, I'm not, because the AFC is so loaded, I'm not ready to say, okay, Jim Harbaugh's going to win a Super Bowl and anything like that. It may take a couple years for that. But I definitely feel like he can at least get the Chargers back in the playoffs and be more respectable going forward. And the Brand Staley was there. Okay, so now that I've gone over my coaching hires there, now I want to go over my mock draft 1.0. So the way this is going to work is my first mock draft's right now. My second mock draft is after the combine, which is towards the end of this month, and then like beginning of March, basically. Once we can kind of see, okay, who's going to be franchise tagged, stuff like that, basically. And then the third mock draft is after the first couple of days of the week in free agency, and then the fourth and final mock draft will be right before the draft, and at the end of April. So let's get started. Now, this draft is going to look very different than from what you're going to see elsewhere because, like I said in the years past for me, I don't project trades. So I just do the draft based off if that team is staying put, which I know changes things a lot. But for first pick for Chicago, I know there's been the talks of, okay, are they going to draft Caleb Williams, or are they just going to stick it out with Justin Fields for one more year? And I feel like if they can trade down, then if they traded it out of the pick at all, then obviously it means they they're keeping Justin Fields. But if they stay put, then that means they're going to take Caleb Williams. But again, it's like I'm not projecting trades. Also, while I think a trade's going to happen, I think it won't. But in this case, I'm actually going to go with an upset. I think they're going to keep Justin Fields and therefore just build around him. So therefore, I have them taking offensive tackle Joe Alt from Notre Dame with the first overall pick there in a shocker. And then number 2, Washington. That means they would gladly take Caleb Williams from USC. Cliff Kingsbury, coached in college. Number 3, New England. They would take quarterback Drake May from North Carolina. Arizona, number 4, they would take the star receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State. Number 5, Chargers. Now this one, they can go multiple different routes. They can trade back, stay put, or if they do stay put, they have multiple options. To me, a lot of the things that they need are not still a little bit later on. So that's why it would be best for them if they trade, but if they don't, I feel like they just need they need to upgrade tight ends. Therefore, I feel like they go Brock Bowers from Georgia with the 5th pick there. Number 6, Giants. They obviously need receiver help. I'm going to have them take Malik Neighbors, the receiver from LSU. 7, Tennessee. They need wide receiver help as well, especially if DeAndre Hopkins doesn't come back. But even if it does, they're still going to need help. So I have them taking Roman Odunze from the Great Washington receiver there. Number 8, Atlanta. They obviously need a quarterback. They take Jane Daniels from LSU. Number 9, they have them taking a wide receiver, Brian Thomas Jr., LSU. Now, usually Chicago's all about drafting defense in the first round, but if they're going to keep Justin Fields, that means they really have to put as much as they can around him to make this all work. So even though it's a defensive head coach and it's a defensive franchise, I would have them taking an offense tackle and then a wide receiver with their top 10 picks. That way it's like, okay, no excuses, Justin Fields. You got to show us this year you can do it. Then with the 10th overall pick, Jets obviously need a left tackle, so I'm taking Oliawa Fashanu from Penn State. 11, Minnesota. A lot of people have them taking a quarterback here. I think in the end, Kirk Cousins is just going to resign there, but we'll see. And if that's the case, then if they don't get a quarterback, then they definitely need some defensive help. So I have them taking They can go anywhere on the defensive line or secondary, but I have them taking pass rusher Dallas Turner from Alabama with 11th pick. 12 Denver. They obviously need a quarterback with Russell Wilson most likely being gone. So I have them taking quarterback J.J. McCarthy from Michigan on that one. 13 Las Vegas. They need a quarterback as well. So if they can't get a veteran on the market, then I have them drafting Bo Nix from Oregon. Number 14 New Orleans. The offensive line is getting old. They definitely need to rebuild that. So I have them taking tackle Talisi Fauga from Oregon State. 15 Indianapolis. They can go multiple different routes here. I have them taking outside linebacker pass rusher Latu from UCLA. 16 Seattle. Now they definitely need like defensive interior because they need to be able to stop the run, which has been their weakness. And the Ravens have a great defense line, so no Mike McDonald's going to want to insert that into Seattle. So therefore, I had them drafting defense tackle Byron Murphy II from Texas. 17 Jacksonville, I have them taking cornerback Terrion Arnold from Alabama because I feel like the secondary was a weakness from them last year. 18 Cincinnati, they desperately, despite all the stuff they put on the O-line, it's still not that great, so they need to continue to work on it until they get it right for Joe Burrow's sake. So I had them drafting offensive tackle J.C. Latham from Alabama. 19 Rams. For me, they could go offensive line here. But if they don't go offensive line, then they desperately need to upgrade their pass rush. So I have them taking the defense in general, but specifically their pass rush. So I have them taking Jared Verse from Florida State. 20 Pittsburgh. There's multiple routes they can go here, but I feel like they can still use upgrade on their offensive line. So I'm taking Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma. 21 Miami. They need some O-line work as well. So if they don't go deep, they also need defensive work, but if they don't go defense, then I had them take an offensive guard or tackle. You can move them around, but I had them take an offensive guard or tackle Troy Fatanu from Washington. 22 Philadelphia, they obviously had a weakness in the secondary, so I felt they're going to focus on that first. So I had them taking cornerback Nate Wiggins from Clemson. 23 Houston, this is the pick from Cleveland. I have them taking defensive tackle Jerzon Newton from Illinois because I feel like the Ravens kind of ran all over them in the playoff games. They kind of need a short the middle there. 24 Dallas. Now there's multiple routes you can go here. They can use another wide receiver for help there. There's not a lot of like elite running back prospects like they are last year. So there's not really to take here in the first round. And obviously they can use more defensive interior work. But especially if the top two defensive tackles go before them, then I'd wait till later on to draft to worry about that. So therefore, I had them taking an offensive guard or center. In this case, he would play center, especially since Dallas' centers are free agent this year, and he's not the greatest anyways. I have them taking Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon. 25 Green Bay. Luckily, they don't have a lot of needs, but I feel like they need a corner though, especially since Jair Alexander's probably gone. So I have them taking Cooper DeJean from Iowa. 27 Arizona. This is the pick they got from Houston last year. I have them taking defensive tackle Darius Robinson from Missouri because I feel like they definitely need to boost up the interior of the defensive line. 28 Buffalo. They can go multiple different routes here, but since the Bills suffered a lot of injuries to the defense last year, they definitely need to kind of beef up that or provide more depth for that unit. So I feel like they're going to go quarterback here, and they're going to go Ennis Rakestraw Jr. from Missouri. 29 Detroit. They obviously need cornerback help. That was the weakness of their team. So I have them taking quarterback Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. 30 Baltimore. Luckily, they don't have a lot of needs, but I feel like especially if Odell Beckham Jr. ends up leaving, then they could use a receiver to replace him. So I have them taking Keon Coleman, the receiver from Florida State. 31 San Francisco. They obviously need offensive line help here. So I have them taking Jordan Morgan from Arizona. And then last but not least, Kansas City. They obviously need wide receiver help, and they also need tackle help since their tackles aren't that great. They survived in the playoffs, but they weren't that great. So they can go either or here. Wouldn't be mad at them whether direction they chose. But I have them taking a wide receiver here, and there's multiple different wide receivers you can take at this point here. But I have them taking Xavier Worthy from Texas. He's a nice punt returner who could be used for them. And then also he's just kind of one of those like shifty, very fast wide receivers, which I feel like they need, since a lot of their receivers are not speedsters. So besides Hardman, um, so I feel like they'll go Xavier Worthy there. So thank you very much. Listen to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel. Tell me about me. Thank you very much. You know, have a wonderful day.